Saint Bertin was a saint and abbot of an abbey in Saint-Omer, later named Saint Bertin Abbey after him. He was born near Coutances. At an early age, he entered the monastery of La Coye in France where, under the austere rule of Saint Columbanus, he prepared himself for his future missionary career. About the year 638 he set out, in company with two comfores, Mumelan and Bertin, for the extreme northern part of France in order to assist his friend and kinsman, Bishop Street, Omer, in the evangelization of the Marini. This country, now in the département of Pas-de-Calais, was then one vast marsh, studded here and there with hillocks and overgrown with seaweed and bulrushes. On one of these hillocks, Bertin and his companions built a small house whence they went out daily to preach the word of God among the natives, most of whom were still heathens. Gradually some converted heathens joined the little band of missionaries and a larger monastery had to be built. A tract of land called Scythiu had been donated to Omer by a converted nobleman named Adriwald. Omer now turned this whole tract over to the missionaries, who selected a suitable place on it for their new monastery. Additional villages were granted by Count Waldebert, later a monk at Bertin's monastery of Scythiu and eventually abbot of Luxuriel and canonized, who gave his son at the baptismal font to Bertin, from whom the boy received his name and his education. The community grew so rapidly that in a short time this monastery also became too small and another was built where the city of Saint Omer now stands. The fame of Bertin's learning and sanctity was so great that in a short time more than 150 monks lived under his rule, among them Street, Winnock and his three companions who had come from Brittany to join Bertin's community and assist in the conversion of the heathen. When nearly the whole neighborhood was Christianized, and the marshy land transformed into a fertile plain, Bertin, knowing that his death was not far off, appointed Rigobert, a pious monk, as his successor, while he himself spent the remainder of his life preparing for a happy death. Bertin began to be venerated as a saint soon after his death. His feast day is celebrated on the 5th of September. Shortly after Bertin's death the abbey received the name of Saint Bertin. Mumelan, perhaps because he was the oldest of the missionaries, was abbot of the two monasteries until he succeeded the deceased Street, Eligius as Bishop of Noyon, about the year 659. Waldebert's son Bertin, adopted by Bertin the founder, then became the third abbot. In medieval times the Abbey of Saint Bertin was famous as a centre of sanctity and learning. The Annales Bertiniani are important for the contemporary history of the West Frankish kingdom. The abbey church, now in ruins, was one of the finest 14th-century Gothic edifices. In later times, its library, archives, and art treasures were renowned both in and out of France. The monks were expelled in 1791 and in 1799 the abbey and its church were sold at auction.